Hey, everybody, welcome back. Yes, it's a brand new edition of the 20 Minutes Podcast. Yeah, I apologize. I know it's been a little while since we've had these, but glad to finally be able to bring it back. And to be fair to my next guest, we had him lined up last week. And well, when contractors want to do something at your house and they tell you what day it's going to be, then you don't have a whole lot to say so. So unfortunately, I had to cancel on our next guest, but as always, gracious enough to join us. And of course, I'm talking about Jeff Boyer, head coach of the Byron Tigers. And coach, appreciate you adjusting your schedule accordingly. And welcome. Great to see you. Great to hear from you.
Thanks. Just always honored to talk with you and love talking high school football.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, especially at this time of year. I mean, I'm sure you've been busy. I know that the February signing day is tomorrow, Wednesday. I got to imagine probably seeing some various coaches come through up until this week, the last handful of weeks.
Yeah, we've had some through, mostly Division threes, but yeah, we've had some other guys in as well. So it's been good.
Good. Yeah, we'll get into that in a little bit, but I mean, obviously wanted to have you on the podcast, and again, just congratulations on Jeff. I'll be honest, maybe one of the most dominating state final performance I can remember in all the years I've been doing this. And, again, it wasn't Little Sisters of the Poor that you dominated either. It was a very good Mount Carmel Golden Aces team. And it just kind of topped off an unbelievable year, a 14-0 record. And, again, set team scoring records, all kinds of records. And has it finally settled in? Has the dust finally settled? And or is there still kind of a high coming off that season?
A little bit of both. I mean, it's been great, but football it never really ends. So I'm already starting to put the calendar together for the following year and get ready to go for that. So you can't dwell on it too long. You got to move forward and on to the next year.
And obviously your school, smaller enrollment school. I know you've got probably a lot of your football players are in various sports between wrestling and basketball. I know that basketball team's having a heck of a year. Is that kind of the case for you? A lot of kids everywhere?
Yeah, there are. I mean, and we try to give them space here this time of year. So kids are playing basketball, kids are wrestling, which is great. We encourage them to do that. We want them to stay competitive. But we'll pick up the weight room here in the spring and get going through the summer as well.
Going back and again, just to look back a little bit on 2023, again, you go 14-0, win the state title. Mentioned just offensively, the dominant performances, and then defensively is too. We can't forget that because, I mean, defensively, outside of that semifinal win over Montini at Montini, I mean, it wasn't close, and it's more than just your offense getting it done. I want to talk about your coaches, and you do not get to the level your program gets to without having that staff behind you and helping and being a huge part of this. And talk about your assistants.
Yeah, so the first guy that I would probably talk about is Everett Stein, who was actually my football coach and coached here at Byron for 37 years. And the reason that I'm talking about Everett first is because he built this program and, kind of laid the blueprint for the rest of us. And we're just kind of following that right now. And, I feel like the success that we've had over the years is a result of what Everett did, back in the 90s when I was playing. There's a lot of people on staff that are descendants from, the Everett Stein era, whether it's myself, Coach Constantine, and Coach Wilmarth, Chad Wilmarth, who we all played for him. Eric Yearley is one of my assistants. He coached with him when he was student teaching. Then Brad Miller was a longtime assistant with Everett and, was one of our coaches as well. So everybody knows the program. Everybody believes in what we're doing. And like I said, to start, that a lot of that has to do with Everett Stein and what he built back in the 90s.
And just such a classic gentleman and an unbelievable coach. And, to this day, I know he's very involved. I've seen him at various Byron games over the years. And I mean, it's got to mean a lot to you and a lot to your assistant coaches. But I got to imagine just that community, the fact that he is still, obviously doing well and able to still be around that program. I got to imagine it's a huge boost for you guys as well as the team and the community.
It's awesome. I mean, he usually makes it back for homecoming, and I always try to have him, speak to the team when he's back. And then, we played in 4 state title games, and he's been back for every single one of them. He lives in Texas and flies back to see that game. I think it means a lot to him, but it also means a lot to us that he's able to come back and spend that weekend with us.
Thing that I love about your school and your story, and it's a story that we see all over the state of Illinois, but for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to get talked about enough. Your community, and just fill us in on what football means to Byron, because I mean Byron reminds me so much and very similar of. God, I go back. I think of towns like Metamora and Geneseo and all those great football towns and football traditions. I mean, I've got one up here in Morris, which is very similar. Your buddy Jeff Reentz down in Wilmington is a very similar situation. How much it means and just how big of a key in the success does that community support play?
It's huge. I mean, we have great support, from admin to teachers to parents. All our kids are bought into the program. I'll even give a shout out to our junior tackle program.
Yep.
5th through 8th grade this year, our kids lost 1 game, and it's something special. People go to watch the junior tackle games. I mean, it's a big deal in our community, and obviously, we have great support once they get up to the high school level and the varsity level, and this is a town that really thrives on football, and I think it sets the tone for the school year. I mean, you have a great football season, and it creates a positive school year as well.
And, you mentioned that those youth programs and the success that they've had. I've got to imagine it's such an advantage when you get kids that come into your program as freshmen that have been in those youth programs. I've got to imagine system-wise, they're probably running very similar to what you're running in your program as well. And talk about how that maybe has given you guys a leg and a half up on maybe some others that maybe don't have quite that relationship with those youth programs.
It's so important. And actually we really started seeing the kids that had come through for 8 years about when Tyler Ellsbury was coming through and playing, back in like 18-19, because my first year would have been 2012. So, those kids had finally run that system for 7-8 years by the time they got up to varsity, and it just allows us to do a lot more at the varsity level. I mean, they're learning our offense, same terminology, our defense, same terminology. And, the other plus that we have is that, myself and Coach Constein, we're Byron grads, and a lot of the guys that are coaching at the junior tackle level are guys that we grew up with and went through the program with Everett Stein. So, those guys believe in what's going on as well. And, they're great support for us, and they do a great job at the junior tackle level.
You look at 2023, was there a point, I mean, maybe it was before the season started, maybe it was during the season, where it kind of hit you and you said, you know what, this is going to be a real good year and this is going to be a real good team? Was there that point during the season, or did it even happen before the season?
Well, we knew that we had a lot of kids coming back, and I think anytime that you have that, you have the opportunity to be pretty good. But, it's a long season, and a lot of things can happen from week 1 to week 14. You got to make sure that you stay healthy. You got to be lucky along the way, and you got to be good. All those things, and this team was that. And we played some teams along the way that we knew were going to challenge us a little bit. I mean, we played Dixon week 8, and
yep.
That was basically for the conference championship. And our kids, it seemed like every time that we raised the bar and we challenged them and said, hey, we're playing a playoff team, we're playing someone good, that they just took it to a whole nother level. And you saw that in the Dixon game. But, we knew that Montini game was going to happen at some point. And when the bracket came out, we knew it was going to be, either Montini or Princeton in the semifinals. And, we were kind of preparing for that and getting ready for that game.
You mentioned Montini, and again, I think it was what 26-20, the final, really close game. I had a chance to watch that on tape before your state final game. I mean, you hear about it all the time. You hear about the Catholic League, and they're obviously a fine representative of the Catholic League. Does it get you even more juice playing a team like Montini coming from that kind of a league, or do you try to downplay that?
I mean, their tradition kind of speaks for itself. I mean, they've had so much success over the years. They're a great program, and then I think they were proven in the league this year. They beat Naz Academy. They also, I believe, they beat Burbank St. Lawrence, who was playing in the 4A title game.
Yep. Sure did.
So, I mean, Montini is a state caliber team this year, and we were just fortunate to go in there and get a win. It didn't matter how it looked. Probably wasn't our best game of the year, but, we still came out on top. And what a great atmosphere in at Montini. And it was a great team. We were lucky to win that day.
So obviously you bring the state title home, you have the celebrations, and as we talked about, eventually you gotta put it away, put it in the side and get going. Imagine, as you talked about, you're in that process now. What I want to talk about is, you mentioned you've got kids all over: wrestling, basketball, I'm sure baseball season, track, they're all doing different things. And then you mentioned weight room. How is that weight program structured, and how are you able to get those kids to continue to do their different sports, yet find that time to get into the weight room? And because obviously it's working. So is it more from a time management standpoint for your kids and getting them maybe more ingrained in that? And how do you make it work, Jeff?
Well, it was probably, 15 years ago that, we implemented a strength and conditioning PE class. So all our kids are lifting, 2 to 3 times a week in the weight room with Coach Yearley, who's one of my varsity assistants. So whether they're in a sport, in season, whether they're not in a sport, they're still lifting 2 to 3 times a week. And then we'll ramp that up a little bit in the summer.
Speed. Your teams always have speed. You always have guys that can run. Is that part of that weight program as well? And how much emphasis is placed on speed in what you guys are trying to get accomplished?
Yeah, we do run throughout the summer, but the majority of our focus, like right now, is in the weight room and just getting stronger. So, we'll certainly work a lot of lower half stuff and a lot of variations to, squats, lunges, step ups, that sort of thing. But, yeah, we work speed and agility on a daily basis in the summer.
Looking ahead to 2024, I believe we got 4 or 5 starters back on offense, 4 back on defense. It looked like offensive line wise is where you're going to have to replace some guys. Just kind of your quick thumbnail overview of what maybe to look forward to in 2024.
Yeah, so every year, I mean, we kind of look at this and go, how are we going to replace those guys? They were so good, and we had a great senior group, big senior group. A lot of those kids played on defense. But if we start on the offensive side of the ball, I mean, start with Caden Constein at fullback. Yeah. The kid's an all-stater. He started at fullback for 2 years already. He was our leading rusher. I mean, he's a special kid. And then we got Braden Knoll at wingback, who is also, over 1,000 yards this year. I think Braden is an all-state caliber running back, to be honest. And then on the offensive line, Jared Claunch at left guard. He was an all-state player. And then Nolan Brass at left tackle. So, those are just a handful of guys that are back on our offense that, did a tremendous job this year, to be honest. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Caden Constein, once again. And then at free safety, Andrew Talbert. He's returning. He was a freshman. You saw him in the state championship game playing quarterback.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. No, I can't remember a freshman that has had that kind of an impact in the state title game in a long, long time.
Yep. So, he traded time at quarterback throughout the entire season. And, he didn't play much quarterback in the semifinal game against Montini. We just felt comfortable running the fullback that day. And I just had a feeling that, I thought he was going to probably have a pretty big game in the state game, and it turned out to be true. And but he's solid defensive player. Noel also plays cornerback. He's returning for us. Jared Claunch on the defensive line. I mean, we're talking about, a few of the same kids, but those kids are all coming back and should have a great season this year.
Yeah, no doubt. Couple of questions I have before I let you go. And again, just appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. We finally got a scrimmage game back. It's taken, I don't know what, 30 years maybe, but we're finally getting a summer scrimmage game against another team. Your thoughts on that? And have you actually lined one up yet?
I love it. It's really hard for us, school our size, to do an inter-squad scrimmage. There's years that we don't have a ton of numbers, and then we're having to pull sophomores up. They haven't practiced with us, and we got a mixed line and mixed backfield, and it just looks a little bit sloppy. So I think it allows us to get some really good looks and also play a lot of kids for that scrimmage. So I'm excited about it. We've been looking for someone. So if you know someone that would like to scrimmage, we would love to we'd love to get someone lined up. I mean, we've reached out to several schools. We wanted to play Rochester, and they were already booked up.
That's what I'm thinking right there.
So yeah, I think they're scrimmaging Belleville, and then we were going to maybe scrimmage Sycamore, but that didn't quite work out. So we're looking for someone to scrimmage right now. So if you know of anyone, send them our way.
Yeah, I will do my due diligence to try to get that lined up for it, because that was my thought immediately when I saw a scrimmage game, and I thought of you guys. I go, okay, who's going to be brave enough to take you guys on, and even from a style standpoint, I mean, go play someone you're never going to see, because it's a scrimmage. So go test yourself. So on that line of thinking, here's another thing I wanted to throw at you. Who's that opponent you would love to play that you've never been able to play, but a school that you mentioned Rochester, maybe a school that you look at and you go, you know what, we could play with that. That would be a great game. Who is that for you? Is there anyone?
Well, like I said, Rochester would be fun. I know Derek does a great job there, and we would really entertain that. That'd be a lot of fun. But just in our area, a team in 1A that's just been dominant over the years is Lena Winslow.
Yep.
We're going to practice with them a little bit this summer, so we're going to get some looks. But I know Stillman back in the day, they actually played them like week 1. For a while, and that was a great matchup, and that would be a fun game to play as well.
All right, so I got work to do now. I got a homework assignment. I got to go find you guys a really good really good scrimmage opponent.
Unfortunately, I don't want to say unfortunately, it's good and bad. We're in a lot conference, so like as far as a scheduling standpoint, we're pretty much set, but that really doesn't give us any flexibility to schedule anyone else.
Thoughts, Big Northern, obviously, as you mentioned, lot conference. Has pluses, has minuses. It obviously has worked out well for you. It doesn't seem like you lack anything after playing that conference schedule. You come in the playoffs and have success. So obviously the conference is helping you during the regular season. But your thoughts on playing a lot conference?
Yeah, I mean, it's been fine for us, to be honest. There are certainly times where I look at it and go, I wish we could go play a Rochester, an IC Catholic in a non-conference game or something like that to really, challenge our kids along the way. But like you said, overall, it's been good to us. We played some really, really good people over the years. I mean, Stillman Valley and Mike Lawler, the success that they've had over the years is unbelievable. Our program's just trying to match what they've done. But Dixon's been very solid in recent years. North Boone's been a playoff team. I know, like Oregon, they made the playoffs last year, and their group of kids that are going to be seniors this year has been a very good group for them.
Yeah.
So look for them to be better. Year in and year out, I think, everyone's battle tested once they get to the playoffs.
Geographics, where did you guys stand on that? What was your view? Were you pro? Were you against? Do you like conferences? Could more geographic friendly districts benefit you guys? What was the thought?
Yeah, so we were against districts, and not necessarily because of our schedule. I mean, I get the idea, and honestly, I think our schedule, it looked somewhat similar. I mean, we dropped a few conference opponents. Dixon's a little bit bigger than us, so they would have been playing in a different district, and then we would have picked up a few other teams that were about 3A size. So that part of it would have been nice, but we were against it just because across the state, I don't think it made a lot of sense for teams to be traveling all over the place. I mean, some of them I believe that would have to travel quite a ways, like East St. Louis.
Yeah. Well, the area I live in, my kids would go to Minooka High School, and they would be part of that group of schools that someone's either going to the St. Louis suburbs, or the St. Louis suburbs are coming up here.
Right. And I mean, that was one of the issues when we talked about being, 1 through 32 in the playoffs, which I really like. And I'm a big advocate for that. I would love to see that happen first before we're talking about districts.
Oh, yeah.
The issue was travel. Well, I think the districts created more of that problem than what a playoff system that went 1 through 32 would be. So, I would really like to go back and look at that. We love going on the road or having someone new come to our place, learning a new team and seeing a different school, a different field. I think, that's the fun of the playoffs. And it's like Montini this year. That's the first time we've ever played there. What an atmosphere, what an experience. And they were great hosts and good people to work with. So, we really enjoyed that.
And I always laugh when I think of you guys because, I obviously I've got Wilmington right down the road for me. And every playoff pairing, it was talk to Jeff and say, okay, well, what round are you running into Byron? And it became commonplace. And I think that's the biggest issue I had with the current geographic system with the playoffs, is the fact that every year it seemed like you guys are playing the same damn teams every single year in the playoffs. And what's the fun in that? There is none. I mean, it's still, now don't get me wrong, it's still the playoffs. You're still fighting for a state championship. But I got to imagine, Jeff, just from what you said alone, they're going to look at this again, I hope, right?
I certainly hope so, because like you said, us in Wilmington is a perfect example. I know just over my tenure that we've played them 5 times. So that was 5 times between 2012 and 2019. So we're talking 7-8 years there.
Yeah.
That we ran into each other. And I mean, they won a few and we won a couple, kind of went back and forth, but Lena Forston, another perfect example where they're running into each other every single year. Yeah. And my argument is let's have a chance for those teams to come from opposite sides of the bracket, and that possibly be the state championship game. I mean, we've played Montini Catholic in the semis. We played IC Catholic in the semis. They were tremendous football games, and that would be an ideal championship game to have that happen. So
yeah, and I get the travel aspect, and I understand that, but Jeff, people are traveling regardless, and even under the current system, I could probably give you a half dozen road trips that would have been just as far with 1 through 32 versus the geographic system, and I don't think anyone could argue it. So we'll see. Oh well, we'll try to solve that and several of the other world problems we're running into these days with high school football. But again, appreciate you taking time. Just congratulations to you and your guys, and a tremendous run. And knowing you and your program, I got a feeling we're going to see you back down there sooner rather than later. So again, pal, appreciate it very much. Thanks for hopping in for a little bit.
Yeah, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
You got it. All right, Jeff Boyer.